Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder on Sunday, April 10th, 2022. My name is Laurel Sepla-Etra, and I'm very pleased to be your worship leader for today's service. We welcome all at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Boulder. All of you are welcome, and all of you are sacred. Whatever your past was like, whatever this present moment is like for you, we invite you to journey into the future together. Welcome to everyone joining us via the magic of the internet. We are delighted you are here. This congregation is all of us, together, in person and online. If you're a new online visitor, you'll find a link to our visitor form in the video description, or send an email to the office and let us know how you found us. Let me begin by offering this message from Reverend David, who is unexpectedly homesick today. He writes, "Friends, after such a wonderful Sunday of celebration last week, I regret not being there with you today. I've had mild cold symptoms the last few days. A few years ago, I might have taken cold medicine and been there, but the new normal for me and for all of us is to stay home when you're not feeling well, even if it's mild. I'm sorry to miss you, but I'm thrilled that Lisa Moore is here instead. Lisa is the ministerial intern at the Boulder Valley UU Fellowship and a seminarian at Meadville Lombard Theological School, a former student in the preaching class I teach there. I hope you'll give her a warm welcome, and I'll see you soon. I have a few other announcements. After the service today is our What's What and Who's Who mixer. As we emerge together, it's a chance to hear from church leaders and ministry teams about what's going on these days and how to get involved. After that, at 2 o'clock, there's an outdoor work day. Throw on some work clothes, bring gloves and shears, and help clean our grounds up from the winter. No gardening experience necessary. We'll have experts on hand. And according to what I looked on the weather, the wind is supposed to be dying down. And this Friday at 7, we'll hold a special service here in person. The service of lament is a spare, intimate service that faces plainly and without deflection the stark reality of suffering and the experience of hopelessness, ending in silence and darkness. It's a time to honor the dark night of the soul. Finally, I'd like to invite Whitney Wheelis up to give us our final update on our annual pledge drive.
Okay, this is the last time, I promise. So a big thank you to all of our members and friends who have pledged in our annual pledge drive. It is an exciting time for our congregation. We've restarted in-person Sunday services, installed a wonderful settled minister, have a YouTube channel streaming our services, and are once again enjoying making music together with our pianist, our chancel cats, and our choir. After a difficult couple of years, we are indeed stronger together. We are at 89% of our pledging goal. So close. Remember, our goal is 400,000, so we're nearly there. Today is the final day to submit your pledge. The Finance Council and the board will use these financial commitments to plan next year's budget for presentation to the congregation prior to the annual meeting in May. This beautiful, sparkly flame has grown, showing the generosity and commitment to our congregation and to our mission. We thank you all for all you do for this faith community.
Good morning. Our call to worship today comes from the words of Rebecca Ann Parker. They are in, it is number 184 in Lifting Our Voices, the readings of living tradition. Even when our hearts are broken by our own failure or the failure of others cutting into our lives, even when we have done all we can and life is still broken. There is a universal love that has never broken faith with us and never will.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving, as His love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Feel with each pilgrim who questions the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Bring thou compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor, both stranger and friend. Praying and striving where hardships end.
If you are joining us online and have a candle or a chalice near your computer, please get ready to light it. We invite you to type into the chat box where your chalice is lit, the street or neighborhood, or what city if you're joining us from outside Boulder County. I'd like to invite Rebecca Canarias to light this morning's chalice.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. I grew up in a Quaker household in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, with my parents, Rusty, and her real name was Barbara, but everyone knew her as Rusty because of her red hair. And Stan, and my two sisters, Kathy, whom you know, and Megan, whom we also know. I grew up with Quaker values, which I have carried to this day. My father, who had grown up in a Lutheran family, and my mother, who grew up with an Episcopalian mother, became Quakers. And I was brought up in the Quaker traditions. Tradition! I also grew up with a heavy theater influence, acting. And when I went to the Camp Hill communities, I did do some acting. I played Joan of Arc. When I was 13, I went to the Camp Hill school in Glenmore, Pennsylvania, nicknamed Beaver Run, because of the little creek that ran there. I attended school in the Christian Community Services, and I went through the rite of passage, also called confirmation. And I was allowed to drink coffee and/or black tea on Sunday mornings. Because it was a residential school or a children's village, Megan was there as well. I lived in the biggest house in the community, Whitestone. And one of the responsibilities of living in such a big house, living in the community, was meal preparation. And yes, making coffee for the staff people. And in essence, I learned how to make coffee before I was even allowed to drink it, ironically. Enough. The Sunday services were held in the cultural building, known as Rainbow Hall. And the services were held very formally. Very formally. In the anthroposophic tradition, and the children had to behave themselves, fold their hands, and when they went to these services. Anthroposophy was based on the works of Rudolf Steiner, who was a philosopher. And I'm studying philosophy of religion. I lived in different Camp Hill communities in different states. And when I came back to live in Lancaster, I joined an Episcopalian church. And for a while, I sang in the choir. I wonder if Deborah's going to get ideas. Or Ben is going to get ideas. I also joined a Mennonite church for a while when I became friends with someone who was a member of the church. When I visited, here's the clincher. When I visited my sister Megan in the autumn of 2007, before Kathy moved here, I walked over to this church, I said UCB, on a Sunday morning and attended the service and coffee hour after the service. The sanctuary was beautiful, and I felt welcome. I enjoyed singing the hymns and the way that the service was held. During the coffee hour, I strongly remember saying to someone, I hope to come back here someday. And, well, that someday happened when I joined the church in 2019 on March 31st. Although I visited previously, in 2018. After moving here to live with Kathy and Megan, this church has made me feel so welcome and accepted, as well as encouraging me to make coffee for the coffee hour. And I have made many new friends. I also enjoy Friday afternoon books. Plug for the Friday afternoon books there. In the spirit of awakening, I light this chalice in gratitude for the beloved church community I found.
We now invite all those gathered in your various locations to join together in fellowship and community as we all say aloud together our congregation's covenant. We gather in fellowship to speak truth to each other, to reach out and touch one another, to care with each other, and to seek the truth divine. So be it.
So this bowl, it comes to me, a friend of mine was doing work in Kathmandu, and she brought it back for me as a gift, so it is very special to me. And this is a nice traditional singing bowl, so I am going to invite us into a deeper meditation with this bowl. Because I have really crummy sense of time, I'm actually going to put a timer on my watch. And the invitation is to not only listen for the tones, but also listen to the imperfections, the place where the vibration gets a little too strong for me to handle bringing the striker around. What comes up? What do you feel? And what do you hear? Again, timer first. Ritual is an outward expression of an inward experience. We invest ritual with meaning that wells up from within and beyond us. It moves in both directions. Ritual changes and transforms us in the process. The table in front of me has a tray and 2 bowls. The tray is filled with I was corrected, soil. I was going to say dirt, but somebody said no, it's actually soil. Earth formed of the 1,000 generations of cottonwood and aspen leaves, watered by snowmelt and thunderstorms, burned by fire, mulched by buffalo and prairie dogs. This is the land of the Ute and Arapaho peoples. Sacred earth. The bowls contain stones from the Boulder Creek, little pieces of mountain with their rough edges smoothed by time and water and motion. Those meeting in person, I invite you to come forward as you feel so moved, silently taking a stone and place it into the earth to symbolize your joys and your cares taking their place in a larger whole, mingling with each other, held in the hand of the earth. For those online, I invite you to share in the chat the hopes and worries on your heart today. For all the blessings and concerns, as well as those that remain silent in your hearts, we hold this compassionate space with love. Thank you for all the ways you bless each other. And I do have a couple blessings concern from John Cuddington. A speedy recovery for Greg Clausen, who suffered severe leg problems on his trike ride to Golden. And also from John Cuddington, the UU Men's Group meets this afternoon from 3:30 to 6:30 p.m.
Holy
One stone is for gratitude for all the graciousness and hospitality you have shown me this morning. Thank you very much. I am impressed by your adaptability. And then this last stone is for all those joys, concerns, laughter, tears, sorrows that may still be in our hearts that are not spoken out loud. May they still be a part of us as we carry everybody's journey together. So good morning, everyone. Again. How is it with your spirit today? And how is your mental health today? Oh. And now I am stalling for a second to find the other document where my sermon is. So I'm running off of 2. And I am not, nor will I probably ever be, as tech savvy as I aspire to be. So thank you. I'm not alone. I imagine not. So, mental health or lack of mental health, mental illness, mental differences was something that many people were coping with before the pandemic. But when the pandemic happened, about 20% of the US population reported that it had a significant impact on their mental health. That number goes up to 45% of those with mental illness and 55% who suffer with serious mental illness. So in 2020, more than 12 million people experienced serious thoughts of suicide. And those statistics are from NAMI, which is actually originated here in Boulder County. So the research is not very fun. 1 in 5 US adults experience mental illness each year. 1 in 20 US adults experience serious mental illness each year. 1 in 6 youth aged 6 to 17 experience a mental health disorder each year. 50% of all lifetime mental illness begins by age 14 and 75% by age 24. And this is the worst one. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among people aged 10 to 34. The American Psychiatric Association produces the DSM-5-TR, which stands for the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. It is a mere 947 pages long. So I'm going to share a little bit of my story, and Reverend David comes into this at some point near the end. But because the title of my sermon is Singing from the Scars. So when I applied to seminary, one of the questions, you apply to like grad school, and you have to write, they have all these essay questions you have to fill out. Oh, and there I go. God, I quit talking with my hand. There I went. Here I'm back. One of the questions that they asked me was about my call. I had heard my call actually when I was very young, going to a Roman Catholic school. And I was told that I was not eligible. But that call, that still, small yet very firm voice inside of me that was telling me this is where I need to be and this is what I should be doing. Well, a large part of finally listening and knowing and acknowledging that call happened before seminary, and it's stitched together with my journey towards mental wellness. One of the sentences I had written in that essay was that I didn't realize how sick I had been until I had done a lot of work on improving my mental and emotional health. And it's something that I still do. Growing up, I didn't know about attention deficit disorder. I was born in the 60s in a smaller town, and there wasn't a lot of access to that information yet. So I was just considered spacey. I didn't know about or have any skills to cope with my differences. I also had a family with a history of mental illness. So we're going to go way through so many decades. And in 2014, the man I was married to at the time left me, and I cracked. I cracked wide open, big and hard. And this is where the life-saving faith of Unitarian Universalists comes in. Many of you might have heard at some point in time how this faith has saved somebody's life. And I will be right here saying I am one of those people. If it wasn't for my home congregation and the people within it, the minister who helped get me through one of the worst periods in my life, I don't know if I'd be standing here right now. And having a dog, that helped too. So I started doing some work after that happened, and I got therapy, I got help, and I also got some really good psychiatric care. And in the process of getting that, I got a diagnosis, or a few. Diagnosis: depression, anxiety, ADD, which people knew but wasn't official, and suicidal ideation. Getting the diagnosis took a massive load off of me and my heart, because then I realized that it wasn't something inherently wrong with me. It was just that I moved differently in this world. Naming it, naming the suicidal ideation, the anxiety, it took some power away from those words and gave the power back to me that I had some control. I now had learned that I have tools that I can use. I have people on my side who can help me. Part of that process was work called dialectical behavior therapy. And this is a process, it was a year-long class that I participated in as a patient of learning how to develop skills outside of medicine to help me with some of the struggles that I might be having. So mindfulness comes into play. So meditations, and then we have stress tolerance, getting things in place so that in case something does happen, I've got the tools already available to me. So several years ago, my now partner Patrick and I were talking about something, and I don't remember what it was, and neither does he. But we were both really frustrated about something that was going on, and I asked him if he had ever thought of killing himself. What? No, of course not. And he was like shocked that it even came out of my mouth. We had been together for over 5 years at this time. And that's when I told him for the first time that I thought of ending my own life, that the thought of ending my own life was almost always in my mind. I asked him a few nights ago if he remembered this conversation, and he did. And he said what the part that he remembered the most wasn't that he remembered the most was that we were both shocked by what the other person said. So, singing from the scars, that is something where I come to you as somebody who is very comfortable talking about my mental health, my journey. Also acknowledging that I have privilege because I get to wear this fancy purple robe and stand up here and tell you about it. And a lot of people in marginalized places might not be able to have that privilege. So one of my goals in life is to take the stigma off mental health. I am the intern minister at Boulder Valley Unitarian Universalist Fellowship, and part of my internship and my schooling is doing a leadership project, and I am currently facilitating small groups for people who self-identify as having mental health issues. So all of this is what brought me here to you, sort of. Well, that and Reverend David being sick. I will be honest, I am not sure what work you in Boulder, at the UU Church of Boulder does regarding mental health advocacy and dismantling the stigmas around mental health. I know what my internship does, and they do quite a bit. And I imagine you do as well. But I do know that you probably within this wall, you have people that you can connect with if you have a crisis, or somebody that you can talk to. And one of the things about having or living with a mental difference or an illness is that it's not really fixable. And it can make other people feel uncomfortable. Like if I went up to you and said, hey, I'm thinking of killing myself, what do you think? Yeah, there's laughter, but there's a little bit of a nervousness about that too, I imagine. And so we're going to do a little practice. And for the people in the YouTubeverse, I have no idea how this is going to work. Maybe there is somebody next to you that you can have this conversation with. But what we're going to do is some sacred listening and some sacred speaking, because our words have power. Our words can be used to deflect and diffuse, and our words can be used to acknowledge somebody else's struggle, not to fix it, but just to listen and know that it is heard. So, what I would like you to do is find somebody you don't know really well. Look around. Or maybe you all know each other really well, which is great too. And I'm going to set a timer, and I'm going to invite the first person to say to the second person, how is your mental health today? And then just listen. Don't fix. Don't come up with all the resources. Don't say, I know so-and-so who has got something similar like that. Just listen. And then I'm going to I'll say it's time to switch. Thank that person who shared and let them ask that question, and you get to respond. Again, no fixing, just active, sacred asking and listening. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead and switch. Thank the person, and then ask the question. Okie dokie, if we want to start coming back, thank each other. Meow. 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 I have heard sometimes herding Unitarian Universalists is like herding cats, so I figured I'd try the meow to get your attention. How did that feel? Hard? Hands up, good? Yeah? Thank you. If someone ever says, I am thinking of taking my own life, know that you can't fix it, you can't do anything, but you can help them. You can get them, pick up the phone and call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. They are working, and I don't know if it is through here yet, on having, it's a 988 number. So instead of 911, 988, and you get right through. It looks like it's going to be starting in July 16th. And then the phone number is 1-800-273-8255, 24/7, 365 or 66 days a week. There is somebody to reach out if you need to talk to somebody. It's practice that gets us out of our discomfort of listening or asking the words. That is very sacred work. Again, I had mentioned before that I facilitate a couple small groups of people who self-identify as having some type of mental illness or mental difference. And I never ask them what it is. Some had volunteered and some didn't, and that's fine. And one of the other things that I asked them is, what would you like the congregation to know? This is your religious and spiritual family. These might be things that you might find important. And while that's at a different congregation, I imagine some of these would play well still here, so I am going to share them with you. One person who suffers from social anxiety said having multi-platform worship is important. The idea of walking into a room with 100 other people is terrifying. But being able to participate in the Zoomiverse or YouTubeverse or whatever type of techverse is out there, still gives them a feeling of connection. So remember that as you work, reach out and see maybe if you can find the people who are visiting during the services, or find other ways to interact. It's a work in process. This is all new for all of us. Somebody else said, everyone needs therapy. And I agree with this one, like solid. Even if you don't have mental illness, even if you're not struggling right now, having a therapist or a spiritual director. We see our dentist for our teeth. We have massage therapists and chiropractors and acupuncturists and all these other things for all the other different parts of our body. And we go to a variety of doctors for every ache and pain and whatever. Why would we not have a therapist to help with our mental and brain health? Just check in. Is everything going okay? Everything's going okay. All right. Some people are medication resistant. They would love to take some to help them with whatever they are suffering from, and it's not working, and they have tried. Also know that there is no panacea. Some things help a lot, and some things don't. People have mentioned exercise helps them, meditation, yoga. Being in community is huge. Somebody else mentioned that the realization that sometimes the illness and how we are when it's at its worst can be a drain on the loved ones and cost us relationships. We are aware of that. Some of us. I wasn't a long time ago. I am now. Also know that we have mental differences and illnesses. We are not them. I have ADD. I'm easily distracted by puppies and bright, shiny objects. I can't help myself. I am not ADD. I have depression. I am not that. I experience anxiety, but I am not anxious. Also know that even at our best, there is always the probability that our illness will take hold of our mind again. We realize how scary this can be for the people that we love. And believe me, it is scary for us too. I had somebody who told me that their mental illness causes them to isolate themselves. So when somebody reaches out to them, it makes a huge difference in their well-being, because for some reason they can't seem to do that. It's part of how their brain works. So even small gestures mean everything. A text, hey, thinking about you. A call, email, a hug. Being vulnerable to somebody who is always feeling vulnerable is very heart-opening and gives this person very deep joy. So, as I was saying, and as Reverend David had said, he teaches a preaching class at Meadville Lombard, which is my seminary, the seminary I'm attending, and yeah, they really do have a preaching class. And one of the things that he said, and he really drilled that into us, was preach from the scars and not from the wounds, which means if it's really fresh and tender, don't go there, because if it was something like that, I'd probably start sobbing here, and then it's just not good. But when I shared with you my journey, that wasn't just a scar. That is healed and covered and well tended, and you can barely even see the scar anymore. It's doing really well. So not only am I going to preach from it, I'm going to sing from it. I invite you all on this journey together to learn how to sing from your scars and accompany others as they learn that as well. Amen. and blessed be.
This month, our offering goes to EcoCycle. Moving to a zero-waste system is going to take a big cultural shift. There is no better way to change our society's culture of wasteful habits than by educating and engaging children, motivating them and their families to protect the environment. EcoCycle's Green Star Schools program empowers pre-K through 12th grade students to make this cultural shift. EcoCycle works with 59 Boulder County public schools to make zero waste a way of life. The program addresses every aspect of a school's waste stream and engages students and staff in waste reduction, reuse, recycling, and composting. The goal is to make zero waste an integral part of the daily school routine by increasing environmental literacy, providing infrastructure, and changing behaviors, resulting in a 67% reduction in waste for some schools. During the pandemic, when schools turned to remote learning, EcoCycle's environmental educators continued to provide environmental education lessons and virtual field trips so that students, upon returning to classrooms, remained knowledgeable and motivated to reduce waste. The zero waste knowledge learned by students in the classroom ripples out into their communities with support from teachers, administrators, and cafeteria and custodial staff. For example, at Ryan Elementary, Nate Fuller, head custodian and co-zero waste advocate, created a student task force last year to keep their playground and surrounding areas free of litter. The Ryan Trash Task Force, composed of 3rd through 5th graders, meets 2 mornings a week to pick up litter. The Student Task Force is happy to know that they are helping their school and classmates as well as the community. This is just one example of many of how EcoCycle's Green Star Schools program engages students and their families in a variety of sustainability activities, greatly expanding their classroom education into the real world. As more and more Boulder County communities adopt zero waste goals, the Green Star Schools program is increasingly important to helping students take an active part in determining the future that they will inherit. I invite you to give as generously as you are able. You can make a donation now using the link posted in our chat, by sending a check to UUCB or scanning the QR code on the next slide with your mobile phone. May our gifts be used to enact justice, bringing peace and love to the Boulder community.
Our closing words come from Wayne Aronson in number 698 in Singing the Living Tradition. And I'm getting this from a book called Held, which is also by a Unitarian Universalist minister, Reverend Barbara Myers. And she also does mental health ministry. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard. The path is never clear. And the stakes are so very high. But take courage. For deep down, there is another truth. You are not alone. Thank you to all who have gathered this morning. We invite folks who are online to join a Zoom room for a time of online fellowship and discussion, and those in person to do the same in the Sky Room. And if you would please rise in body and/or spirit as we close in song.